From this moment on, you will now be known as Sharkbait.
Sharkbait! Ooh-ha-ha!
Welcome, brother Sharkbait.
Sharkbait! Ooh-ha-ha!
Enough with the Sharkbait.
Sharkbait! Ooh! Bop.
What's up, YouTube? So from what you can see by my Apex readings here is that I have a heater failure, which is one of those things that we hate to see, but luckily for me, the fact that I have this display on all the time, I noticed it in time, and one of the safeties that I have in place is that my room thermostat is set to 2 degrees within the safety parameters of the tank. There's a lot of reasons to have electronics hooked to the tank, but one of the problems with having electronics is that it fails. So it is very important to constantly monitor your tank and look for things such as this, because you never know when or if these things are going to fail. And just in case they fail when you're not around, it's good to have safeties. And because my fish have been here quite a few years, I have to say this is not the first time that a heater has failed, and I've taken certain measures to make sure that there are safeties such as the room temperature. One good thing is the drop in the temperature, that 4-degree drop, because in the winter I keep my tank about 74 to 75 degrees, is it looks like it's put my clownfish in like a more of a breeding type of behavior. These guys have been hanging out together like they're roommates. And this is one of the cooler parts of the tank, whereas the heater is more located on the other side. But I will have you rest assured that I do have a backup heater, and I also ordered a titanium backup to put in the sump, so that if the temperature drops within 2 degrees, the other heater will cut on. One of the things that I didn't do, because I moved my backup heater that I used to have in the sump for this tank to the frag tank downstairs. So the frag tank heater is way overrated for that tank. Now here it's easy to see that this very large titanium heater, or maybe it isn't easy to see, but I basically have a 300 watt titanium heater in this tank. And this tank is relatively small, so it is really overrated for the tank. But the good thing about that is that it never has to work really hard. So it's never really on. But the fact of the matter is that this room is in the basement. My basement is really cold, as you can see by my little weather station here, is that the room is about 71 degrees. So the tank's really made to be kept about 4 degrees above what the room is. This one is a little warmer, being at more about 76, 77. So you get a lot of evaporation, and as the water is evaporating, you're constantly pumping in water, hard to see, from the top-off system here, which is my little top-off reservoir. It's about 1.5 gallons or so. And that is constantly tapping into a reservoir full of room temperature water, which it then has to heat again. So it's things to consider when you have your room temperature set so much that it has to force your tank to constantly run that heater. You're always running that heater a lot of the time. So the basement is more of an issue, but the upstairs, since the room temperature of the that thermostat is set so that we're up there all the time, the basement isn't so far much. I like to have it cool down here, because this is like when it's hot upstairs, we like to cool out down here. And part of my camera there, I gotta wipe the lens off, it's a little bit foggy there since I had it laying by the tank. But the fact of the matter is to go +1 when you get a heater, because heaters fail. The more you're running them, the more they have to heat that tank throughout the course of the day, the more likely they are to have a shorter life, and the more you're going to evaporate water. So you see, the animals get a little more active as the temperature gets closer to that 74, 75 mark. This one is run at about a higher temperature than upstairs. But that's because I have more SPS down here than I have upstairs. And it's good to know that I see why Mr. Urchin is running away from the scene of the crime. As you can see, he's knocked over my Pavona again. This guy is such a demolition derby. Making him active is probably the last thing I want to do. But the fact of the matter is, temperature and having safeties in place to monitor the temperature is one of the most important things in a tank. One of the reasons you get algae blooms and things like that, a lot of the time is a simple issue with temperature. Oh yeah, you all right, baby? I had to move that again. As you can see, I actually had glue on it. You can see from the bottom. And he still manages to knock it over because he's so bulky, squeezes through there and makes a big old mess. But this guy's probably been knocked down more than Mike Tyson in his last few fights, so he'll recoup. And that is the discussion on heat. So do yourself a favor, if you got one heater, get a second one just as a backup, even if you don't run it in the tank. If you have a small heater, as I keep in my little tanks over here, I run a small heater in one of these. This one actually I don't run a heater on, just as it's a happy experiment. The fry's been doing well, but as you can see, look how much water is evaporated. This one is probably less likely to evaporate than the one with the heater because the water is room temperature. But if you can put an extra heater, like a little 50-watt heater with an indicator on it, something with a light on it, this is working. So if this light is on, I know the heater is on. But if you get a backup heater, like let's say a 100-watt or a 50-watt heater, just to maintain the temperature at about a 1 degree or whatever it is, backup, you can get the same size, but it just takes up more space. But this way, if you don't have a controller hooked up to your tank and you see that second heater cut on, then you know that your first heater has failed before your tank temperature drops and plummets. So that's just a quick note for today, quick video, let you know what D is doing, waiting for another heater to come. But in the meantime, everybody's chilling. So hope you guys have a happy new year. Take care of those tanks, save those ducats if you can, wherever you can, and take it easy, people. Love, peace, and hair grace. See ya. Keep those tanks affordable. And this baby has grown a